It's good day, brew, baby. What is up, YouTube? It's your boy Millsy, back from Hometown Commander for another episode of Millsy Brews, the show where I take my first pass at the commander in front of us on a budget on my quest to brew the magic. Well, you know the motto, baby. It's ABB, always be brewing, and that's what we're back to do today. The deck list is going to be down in the description for you below. So I'd really appreciate if you could interact with the video, like, comment, subscribe, consider checking out those links in the description. I'd appreciate it. But today, we're rolling on through Edge of Eternity's content, working our way up towards Spider-Man, and today we're taking a look at Urtet, Remnant of Memnarch. Kind of reaching back on this one, I never managed to cover Urtet for the channel, so I thought now's the time, if any, with all the new artifact support. Urtet is a 3-mana legendary mirror. We are Wooburg in color identity because of its bottom ability, but whenever you cast a mirror spell, you're going to make a 1/1 colorless mirror artifact creature token. At the beginning of combat on our turn, we just untap each mirror we control. This is really important because a lot of our mirror are going to tap for mana, so it's nice that we get to untap them for combat. And then for Wooburg, we can put 3 counters on each mirror we control and just only do that during our turn. This is a really relevant ability, of course, because if you're, mirror helping you tap for mana in order to have Urtet's ability go off, right, then they get to untap in combat and have those counters and they're able to attack. And that's effectively the game plan. Get our mirror in, buff them, get them to be a threat, and try to take over the game that way. But all of them are artifacts. So we can take advantage of the fact that they're artifacts, and we can try to build some more value around them as we set up our pieces and try to work towards winning that glorious game in combat. But I want to say a quick thank you to the channel members. Thank you so much for supporting the channel. And if you're interested in seeing all of our videos just a little bit early and supporting the channel for just $1 a month, consider checking that out down below. Well, all right. There's a lot of them to choose from, and what I tried to do is focus on the ones that tap for mana, although I think there's reasons to play other ones as well. Alloy adds a mana of any color, Copper adds a green mana. Bloodline Pretender is a shapeshifter that has Changeling, so it can be any creature type, so it's going to be a mirror for us. But whenever creature the other type comes in, you put a counter on the Pretender, so the Pretender is going to get bigger, become a nice threat for us. Enforcer, for 7 mana, can come in as a 4/4. For 4 mana, can come in as a 2/2. The important thing to note is it does have an affinity for artifacts. The more artifacts we have, the cheaper it can come in. And it has that prototype ability where you can cast it for cheaper, to give it different stats. Gold taps for a white. Hover Mirror just has flying and vigilance. A nice body to start putting those counters onto. Iron taps for red. Leaden taps for black. Lodestone says whenever we can tap an untapped artifact we control to give it +++ another turn, it has trample. So, we can potentially tap some down to give it a buff. What I kind of like about the idea of this is you could, if you have mirror that don't tap for mana, you could tap them down before combat to give Lodestone the buff, and then they untap right with Urtet's ability when combat gets there. Kind of an interesting way to start buffing it. Mirror Entity, another Changeling, so it's going to count as a mirror for us. And then we can pay X to give all of our creatures base power toughness XX and gain all creature types. This is really important because we're going to be putting counters on them. If we have the extra mana, we could turn them all into 4/4s, right? And then all those counters are stacking on top of that to really take advantage of all the 1/1s mirrors we have laying around becoming really big. Mirror Battlesphere comes in and makes 4 mirror tokens, and then whenever it attacks, you can tap down them to give it a buff and deal X damage to the player or planeswalker it's attacking. So you can deal the damage and give it a buff in that combat. Galvanizer just buffs all of our other mirrors, and we can pay 1 to untap each other mirror we control, which is a really interesting ability and can allow us to get more mana out of each of the ones that tap 4 mana. Propagator can pay 3 mana to make a copy of itself, which is a really interesting ability. It can allow us to hopefully, get ourselves more and more of them turn over turn. Mirrorsmith says whenever we cast an artifact spell, we can pay 1 and get a mirror token. Note that all of our mirrors with the actual type printed on the card are all artifacts. We're going to always be able to get 1 for that, but there's a lot of other artifacts right in the deck that we care about, so Smith is going to give us some more that way. Plague Fear has Infect, which is pretty nice, but also can tap for colorless mana. Silver Mirror for blue, and of course everybody's favorite insert creature type here, Roaming Throne, going to double up Urtet's ability to get us mirror on cast. Of course, can't double up mirrors or Urtet's activated ability, but it's going to double up a good amount of things, hopefully, as we amass more mirror on the battlefield. The Turbine can make a mirror every turn, or we can tap 5 untap to go get one of our choice and put it on the battlefield. This is a really interesting ability. And you may start to notice, certain mirror you like over others, and so the turbine will be your way to potentially go get it for free if you want to. But I think where we take the deck to the next level is realizing that, again, they're all artifacts. Even the ones we make off of Urtet are artifacts. So let's care about the fact that we're gonna have a ton of artifacts. Things like Tezzeret, Master of the Bridge, or his +2 can deal damage to each opponent, where X is the number of artifacts you control, and we gain that much life. Cranial Plating just gives a creature a buff for each artifact you control. It has the crazy ability to be able to equip at instant speed for double black, which is huge. Attach it to the mirror that's not getting blocked and just take a big chunk of damage off an opponent. Alibu, kind of similar to Tezzeret, but only for tapped artifacts. It says whenever one or more of our artifact creatures we control attack, it deals X to any target, and we scry X, where X is the number of tapped artifacts you control. It may not deal it to every player, but again, dealing it to the right player at the right time is still very useful and lets us scry to know what we're going to dig ourselves into. In Spirit, we can get it up all the way. It's going to give all of our mirror hexproof and indestructible. Love it. Unwinding Clock and untap them all on everybody else's untap step. This is really nice, especially for things like the Turbine, where we can tap them to do things, and some of our other artifacts that allow us to tap them to do things. This allows them to untap and use those abilities again. Uthros Research Craft, as it starts to be stationed, is going to draw you cards whenever you cast artifact spells and then put counters on it. Again, drawing's great with all of our mirror artifact spells. And then once it gets up to its full form, it gets +1/+1 for each artifact you control, becoming a huge flying threat to our opponents. But I think the name of the game most of the time when you're playing a tribal deck is get into combat and try to benefit from the fact that you have creatures that share a creature type. And there's a lot of ways we can do this. I mean, I love the idea of something like Steel Overseer, just putting counters on each of our artifact creatures each turn. Again, every one of our mirror, with the exception of a couple, the changelings, and then that type of thing, are going to be artifact creatures. So those are going to automatically get a counter with the Overseer. Then you have things like Banner, Kinship, and Coat of Arms that care about creature types specifically. Banner has you select a creature type when it enters, and it gets a fellowship counter for each creature of that type we control when it enters, and then just for the rest of the game, all of our creatures of that type get a bonus for each of those fellowship counters that's on Banner Kinship. Whereas Coat of Arms is going to give the buff to every creature on the battlefield. But again, hopefully we'll have enough mirror to take advantage of us more than our opponents. Eldrazi Monument, going to give them all +1/+1 flying and indestructible, and then at the beginning of our upkeep, we have to sack a creature or we sack the monument. If we can, making sure we're playing at least one mirror per turn, or produce one mirror per turn, then we can keep Eldrazi Monument out, kind of get pseudo protected for some board wipes, really be able to just take the damage to our opponents. Forsaken Monument is going to give all our mirror that +2/+2 buff, and then whenever we cast Color Spell, we gain 2 life. Whenever we tap a permanent for a colorless, we get an extra colorless. That's not as useful in this deck as it does in some other really good colorless decks. We really care about the +2/+2 and turning all of our 1/1 mirrors into 3/3s, right? And then Mirror Matrix just buffs all our mirrors, and then for 5 mana, you can put a mirror into play. Again, really useful for something like Unwinding Clock. If you can have enough mirror to pay 5 mana, you can be getting one of these in everybody's turn. Again, just going wider and providing more of a threat to our opponents. Patchwork Banner, buffing all of our mirror and allowing it to tap for any color. And then Tempered Steel, giving +2/+2 to all of our artifact creatures, is a huge deal. Because, again, most of our creatures are artifact creatures, so this is really great. Again, a 1/1 to a 3/3 is a really big difference. It may not seem like it, but over the course of a game, you're going to really notice the difference. I think we have to remember that we have a bunch of colorless mirror that we're playing. And so we can play some colorless matters type things. Things like the new Ugin, Eye of the Storms from Tarkir Dragonstorm. Whenever you cast a colorless spell, exile up to 1 target permanent that's 1 or more colors. And it can, net you some mana, it can draw you some cards, or it's 11, just let's go probably cast every mirror out of our deck if we really want to. Echoes of Eternity says whenever we would activate the triggered ability of a colorless spell, or another colorless permanent, we would trigger them additional time. Again, great for Urtet on cast, so the things we haven't cast. But whenever we cast a colorless spell, copy, we choosing targets for the copies. We can copy all of our mirror as they come in, right? Getting more of them. And then because Urtet's putting 3 counters on each of our mirror, something like Simic Ascendancy can help us potentially have a chance to win the game. Whenever you put 1 or more +1/+1 counters on a creature, you put that many growth counters on the Ascendancy. And then at the start of your upkeep, if you have 20 or more growth counters on the Ascendancy, right, you win the game. So it just gives you that option of an alternate win con that should be pretty easy to do, right? depending on how many mirror you have, right, to gain the value that way. But I've said it before on the show, and I'll say it again. No deck's ever complete. This is my first pass at Urtet, and I think going into testing, there's a couple things I want to see. What do we want? Do we want to find more way to give all of our creatures, our mirrors, the ability to tap for mana, even if they don't have a way to do that, with things like Elven Chorus or Cryptolith, right? You know, these enchantments that allow your creatures to tap for mana. I think that could be really effective, especially since Urtet automatically untaps them when you go to combat. I think most of the mirror in the deck tap for mana, if I recall correctly, but it's important to note that those tokens we make won't, right? And so I think the argument there makes sense to me. It's just about finding what are we seeing too much of and take that out and bring those in. Time Sieve, of course, is a very powerful artifact. Allows you to sacrifice 5 artifacts to take an extra turn. Again, if we're making enough of one of those 1/1 mirrors, I don't think we mind giving them up at the right time to take an extra turn to, take another big attack and do something like that. And then War of Invention lets you go look for an artifact card with mana value X or less from your library and put it on the battlefield, and we can improvise. So we can tap artifacts to help us pay for it. So we could tap our mirror to help us pay for it. And I think there's no limit to the upside you can get from something like War of Invention. The question just becomes, do we consistently have enough for something like War of Invention? And if we do, then I think it's worth bringing it in. But let's do what we love to do on the channel the most and get into our playtest. Remember, the goal of playtest on our channel is not to find magical Christmas land. It's not just to show off all our best plays, but it's getting some gameplay scenarios and kind of figure out what kind of hands we look at to keep and how are we going to set up our game plan. So here we're looking at a 3-lander. We're playing a lot of the bridges in this deck from Modern Horizons 2 because they're all artifact lands and our deck cares about artifacts. We're playing that new Uthros. Once you station it up, it can tap for blue for each artifact you control, and then Spire of Industry. So not a bad starting hand. We've got some ramp. We've got a mirror that can tap for mana. We've got Eldrazi Monument. We've got Dispatch. Dispatch is a really interesting spell. Normally it just taps on a creature, but if you have 3 or more artifacts, it basically just becomes a Swords to Plowshares or a Path Exile. Here I'm kind of thinking we just rampant growth. We can go get any basic land we want. See blue and black in my hand. See red and green. The only white source I have right now is the Spire. So I think I'll just go get something like a white source. Then I'm thinking, well, if we're only going to play Palladium here, maybe it makes more sense to get Uthros in, right? And then we could, do we station it or do we leave the mirror untapped? I think I'd probably station it since it does have Summoning Sickness. Anyway, I can't use it for mana. Here we've got a chance to potentially get Urtet in. I mean, the argument could have been, instead of the mirror, you play Urtet, right? Still get the 2, and then now this turn, we could put Palladium Mirror in and get the extra 1/1 mirror. Again, I think that might make more sense now that I think about it, because we're putting more things onto the battlefield, right? And then we could go station up if we want to. We could leave the white up for Dispatch. I mean, my thought is 2 from Urtet, 2 from the mirror, 1 from the 1/1 mirror. And that's even better because Urtet untaps them at the start of combat, which then means we could get it up to 12, right, for a future turn. Hold up the Dispatch. So Uthros is only going to tap for 1 for each artifact we control, right? So we're not exactly there quite yet, but I mean, I think we're getting close. Palladium Mirror can tap for 2, so 3, 6, 8 mana. Now, to note, we do have enough for Urtet's ability to put a bunch of counters. But if I do, I only have 3 mana left. I don't have the right amount of colors to play something like In Spirit and Urtet's ability. I could, though, go like Urtet or In Spirit plus Eldrazi Monument. But again, that won't net me a mirror, and then we're going to have to start trying to find a way to get them for the Monument, right? If I had the counters, what am I doing with the 3 mana? I guess we could hold up Dispatch. It just feels kind of weird, right? I think I like it In Spirit because we technically could get there this turn, right? Because we could station them all up. I guess I could put a counter on like Urtet. Then they all untap. from Urtet's ability. And then we could get it all the way up to give them indestructible, right? So that leaves me with what, 5 mana? Might as well play the mirror, I guess. So you go 2 from Urtet, 2 from Palladium, or Palladium was tapped for the mana, so 2 for the Lodestone, 1 for each of them. Untap them all with Urtet. And I guess we can just tap something like the Lodestone Mirror to turn it online. Start a combat, I guess we'll put a counter on Urtet. My thought here is now they have Hexproof and Indestructible. Now they're going to be a little bit harder to deal with. We're kind of better dealing with our things. Now my thought is go ahead and do Urtet's ability to basically start, right, loading up all of our mirror. And it's only 3 counters on each mirror, right? So In Spirit isn't going to get any counters. So that would have been Wooburg. That means I should have, what, 1, 2, 4 mana left? Just a little bit off that. I guess I could put a blue into Uthros. And I'd probably have enough for the Eldrazi Monument, but I just don't have any way to make more mirror right now, and I really don't want to start giving them up just to give them flying. Go to combat, put it on Urtet, and just get attacking. Right? We could potentially, if we don't think these are going to get through, we could, load up Lodestone Mirror, but I guess we could load up Lodestone Mirror before they untap, right? We could tap these 2 down, because I think this tap to help us cast. Like, these 2 could tap to give this a +2/+2 buff, and then they untap with Urtet and are able to attack, right? So we've got a nice kind of thing started. And there's the Simic Ascendancy, so that's a good place to start. We could go it, and then do Urtet's ability again, right? 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. So that's 15 counters on the Simic Ascendancy. In Spirit's going to hand out 1 right at the start of combat. So we are darn close, right, to just finishing up that. I don't think have the mana to activate Simic Ascendancy, but I think it's okay. Truthfully, I think that's more than enough. I think we've set up a decent board state. It would just be finishing it up next turn with the Ascendancy, and I think we'll be good to go. Again, them all having Indestructible and Hexproof is going to be a decent mountain for them to overcome. And I think at that point, once they can get rid of the In-Spirit, then we're in trouble. But again, I think we've set up a decent board state as it sits. Let's get in playtest number 2 here. Keep it a 2-lander, but we do have a couple of the mirror that tap for mana, Copper Mirror, Gold Mirror, and then a Bloodline Pretender. So we're not looking too bad. I think we're still looking at a turn 3 turn 3 Urtet. 2 mana for one of them. I'm thinking just get Urtet in. Right. Here we go. What? Bloodline, which is a mirror, so that's going to make us a 1/1 mirror. But that's on cast, so the Bloodline's not going to see it come in, right? And then go in for the Copper Mirror. Again, another 1/1. Let's go start getting some tokens, right? And now we're looking good. Next turn, we could start using Urtet's ability. We have white, green. I think we're just missing blue, right? So if somebody has blue, then the Felwar Stone could get us there. Otherwise, I don't even hate the idea of like Felwar plus Coat of Arms, right? Just to buff our whole board and get in and start attacking this turn. I would have to give up one of the mirror, but it would really just get the rest of the mirror in and attacking because they'd all have +5 right now. So even these 1/1s are 6/6s. I also just realized it doesn't matter if we tap the ones for mana because they untap with Urtet. So that's probably even strictly better. Take your attacks. And as we come into the next one, Alibou feels really good. Hit somebody hard and do that, or we play the Battle Sphere. That is going to make us a 1/1 with Urtet's ability, which is a counter on the Protector. Battlesphere comes in, making what? 4 more, right? 4 more counters on the Protector. And that was most of the mana we had for the turn. Because we untap at the start of combat, so I can't do the bottom Urtet ability. But I think we're just in good shape to get attacking. Because remember, the ones that we didn't tap down, 5, 6, we tap one of these down whenever it untaps. Now they're getting plus 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. They're getting like plus 12. So now they're just hitting hard. And as long as we can keep them and or the Coat of Alarms alive, right, we're just in good shape and we're hitting hard. Let's get into playtest number 3 here. We see the Bloodline again. 1, 2, 3, 4-lander. We see Patchwork, which is great. We see the Pretender, great. We see Lodestone, not bad. I don't mind this one. Buried Ruin can help us get artifacts that hit the yard back. We'll get the World Tree in first because it comes in tap. Remember, once we hit 6 lands, all of our lands could just tap anything. Oh, well, we did have Crypto Threat in the deck. I thought we had one of those in there. So we did have Crypto Threat. We just didn't have Elven Chorus. That was the difference. I think just 3 for Urtet. My thought was Patchwork Bloodstone for the Protector. Get a mirror, right? And then now they're all getting a buff. And we now should be at Wooburg pretty soon. I mean, this can't tap for it. We're, what, 1 color away, probably, depending on what our opponents have off the Exotic Orchard. So as long as our opponents don't have... As long as they have another color but green and blue, we should technically be able to, with 5, put the counters on. The question is that what we want to do right now? Crypto Threat turns all these in the ability to tap for mana, so that's 3, 6, 7. Do you banner for 4, or do you just... We could tap them, play Lodestone. Counter here, right? Tap them and give them the buff, I guess. I was going to say, we're just at that odd spot of mana this turn where we just don't have enough, so that gets me another 1/1. Could take the attacks, but I think we're just going to... My thought was just trying to set up for a better play. Because remember, Crypto Thrice lets our creatures tap for a mana of any color. So 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So now we have enough to do Urtet's ability. We could do the Automaton, giving them all flat +1/+1. We could just banner now. I mean, if we banner now, it's, what, 6? So they're all getting that flat +6/+6. And then my thought is now do Urtet's ability to right, get all the counters on. They untap at the start of our turn. This has Trample, this has Infect, so this is a definite block, or maybe somebody doesn't really want to block it. Get some big attacks in. Now we have something like Desynchronization that we have to think about. Could bounce all non-historic non-historic permanents back to the owner's hands. There's the Ascendancy. So because we have 6 mirror, right, that means that that would be 18 counters on the Ascendancy. Remember, Automaton gets the type when it's on the battlefield. It doesn't get the type on cast, so it won't be able to get that, Urtet needed there. But if it's 2 for the Ascendancy, 3 for the Automaton, it's still more than enough with the right to do the ability. And then I think that's what... then if we cast the Automaton first, then that's 7 for Urtet's ability. That's 21 counters, and that is a game on Ascendancy if they can't find a way to get rid of it. Plus, we're just going to take we're going to take a big attack this turn with the Banner's buff and all that kind of stuff, right? I mean, that's the perk of a card like Banner, is giving even those 1/1s a big buff. Well, let's do one more here. Keep it a 3-lander with a couple mirror that tap for mana. We got copper and silver. We got the Turbine there, and then we got the Automaton. So kind of an interesting start. Again, my gut almost tells me you want to get Urtet down first, right? Because Urtet gives you the 1/1s from the mirror we play, right? I think that's probably the mistake in the first game or two, is we go like double mirror now, right, to get those mirror tokens off the cast, right? That way, as we go to value more and more of these, I could go to the turbine and get a mirror. I don't mind the idea of cranioplating. We're not. We're there for Urtet's ability if we want to do that. I think I could plating plus his ability if I want to. Turbine just gets me another 1/1. Automaton plus Mirror Entity could be interesting, getting me another 1/1, and then just opening up Entity as an option for a future turn. I could lay the groundwork with something like Litjara and the cranial plating, although won't double up Automaton, it would double up Mirror Entity, which is interesting. Or to stick the counters on. I don't hate this game plan, this Automaton plus the Mirror Entity to make the 1/1 mirror. And then, right, this turn dump all the counters on. We could even still get the Metallic Mimic in if we want to, because then it's a mirror on the battlefield. And then now you just... you have all of these just getting 3 counters, right? And then we could make them all into like, what, that was 5? We have 2 that could technically tap. We can make them all into 2/2s with Mirror Entity if we want to. They'd still get the buffs, right? And they'd grow up a little bit more, but I think we just have good attacks. Then my thought is, cranial plating and try to stick it to something that doesn't get blocked, right? Just to get a really big buff. So now you're looking at, well, I guess still play the mirror to get the 1/1 because we know they're going to tap. My thought is leave up the double black to attach this to something that doesn't get blocked, and they're taking what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, plus 10 plus 0 buff immediately, right? And that's a really nice buff to a creature, and maybe we could just trunk our opponents out for better damage that way. And then I'd say just keep hitting the Wooburg into Urtet to put counters and just try to rule the board at that point. But I'd love to know, what do you think of Urtet down in the comment section below? Really interesting ability. I think there's more we can do with it, but remember, the goals of the show isn't to get the deck perfect, it's to get the deck started somewhere. And I think the deck's really interesting for sure. I'd love to know what you think of Urtet, and I will catch you all in the next one.